Okay, so on today's video, I'm going to show you how are we going to display the records or the contents or the elements of a list into a data table. So what we have so far, by the way, is we have displayed our records into a list view. Okay, so we have here our create list view function or method that is going to return a list view builder in such a way that the contents then of our students list is going to be displayed into our list view. But there are times that we need to display also, or it would be better to display the data through a table. Okay, so I'm going to show you how are we going to select or how are we going to use a data table to display our records. So I'm just going to have it here. Instead that we are going to have it on a list view, I'm going to create here a function. I'm going to have it create data table. Okay, so we are going to create a data table here and return. Okay, so instead of trying to have create list view, I'm just going to comment this out. Then I'm going to call create data table. Okay, so this one here is on this area of the UI. Okay, so I'm going to create a data table. So therefore here, since we are going to return a widget, so I'm going to return a data table. Okay, so I'm just going to have data table. Okay, our data table is composed of columns and rows. So in our column, we are going to define our headers. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to define here. Oops. I'm just going to name it columns, okay, and I'm just going to name this one here as rows. Okay, so I'm going now, columns is a list. So take note, we are going to create a list of data columns. So I'm just going to define, maybe I'm going to display the ID, the name, and I'm going to have the ID, the name, and the balance. Okay, so here I'm going to create list of data columns. Then I'm going to name it columns. Okay, in which I'm going to return a list. So take note, it is a list of data columns. So since it is a list, so we're going to return a list. Okay, so that is a list. Then I'm going to return different or three columns, three data columns. Okay, the label of the first one is we have. Okay, so it is a widget. So therefore, we're just going to have a text. Then I'm just going to call it ID. Okay, so this will be my first column. So I'm just going to have there const. Then I'm going to copy that ID, name, and balance. So next is we're going to have name and the balance. Okay, and we have also our rows. So for our rows, by the way, it needs a list of data row. Okay, we have there required. We have here a name parameter rows, which is a list of data rows. So I'm just going to create here another function, another method that is going to return a list of data rows. Data row. Okay, I'm just going to call it rows. Okay, so how are we going to define our data row? So I could actually return individual data rows, but in our case, we are going to return the content of, or the number of rows to be returned would depend on the number of items into our students list. And by the way, before going with our students list, I'm going to have this one. We could actually return a list of the data rows. Okay, then I'm just going to have data row with cell. I'm just going to say first ID. Okay, so take note. In this example that I'm going to create is that I'm not going to use yet our students list. I'm going to define a constant set of data rows. Okay, let us say we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cells must be a widget, so therefore this must be a text. Okay, wait. Cells. Okay, it must be a list. Okay, so cell would be the individual. In Excel, you already know what is a cell. Okay, so we're going to draw, since we have three columns, so we're going to have here 3 cells. Okay. By the way, since 3 cells, we're going to have. Oops. Okay, that's the first. Then we're going to have another text for the name. Let us say Pitok Batulata. Then another cell for the balance. Let us say 1,000. Wait. Data row, we have that. Oh, I forgot. Okay, so cells needs a data cell. Okay, so we're going to have data cell. The first data cell is going to have that. Then another one, data cell. Save. Okay, so I have created here a row, a single row, by the way, as of now, but I could still add. Okay, we're going to add some more since we are going to have here a list. So I'm just going to have, okay, I'm just going to have 2. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Donald Duck. Then 1,500. Okay, so the more rows, so the more data row that you are going to specify here. Inside the data row, by the way, is we have here data cell. Okay. Okay, let us try. Save. Okay, so as you could see it here, we have now uh, first is we have our columns that we have defined here. So we have so we have here ID. So we have there also our ID. Then we have the name and the balance. Okay, and we have defined two data rows. So we have for Pitok Batulata and Donald Duck. Okay. Now, if ever we are going to expand, anyway, this is going to automatically adjust, okay, to the length of our the content. But still, we could define it here. In our data table, we could have maybe we could have a size box. Okay, so that we could get the whole size box. Then we are going to have the width double that infinity. Save it here. Okay, so that it is going to occupy the whole screen here. So next is, by the way, we are now going to use our the students list. So take note that the content supposedly of the table here should be those data coming from the ones inputted by the user. That instead that we are going to have our list view, we're going to use now our data table. So the only thing that we are going to change here is our rows. Okay, so instead that we're going to have it this way, okay, so we are going to return students list that map. So take note, I'm going to introduce to you now a new function here. We're going to have map. Okay, map. Then we are going to convert this one, since it is a map. The return value of a map, okay, is of iterable, okay, dynamic, and it said can't be returned from the method rows because it has a type of list of data row. Okay, so therefore we are just going to convert this one to list. Okay, anyway, later on we could change this one. Okay, so as of now we're going to concentrate on the map. Okay, so what does the map means? Map is actually a function, okay? The current elements of this iterable modified by this one here. Returns a new with elements that are created by calling the two element on each element of this iterable. Okay, so it should be like this. So, by the way, I'm going to have it first. So we are going to have the element here. So in our case, we're going to have our student. Then we're going to do some changes here. Okay, so those changes here, actually whatever we're going to do in between these curly braces will be all of the records or all of the elements of the students list will be affected by whatever would be the things that we're going to do or that we're going to implement here. Whatever commands that we're going to implement here will affect all elements in the students list. That's the meaning of a map. Okay, so if every time I'm going to have, let us say, a student that first name, let us say first name that to lowercase, okay, so means all elements or last name field of all elements of the students list will be converted into lowercase. Okay, that's the meaning of map. Okay, so in our case, what are we going to do? So in this case, we are going to return a data row. So meaning for each of the element we are going to get each of the element, then we are going to return a data row. Okay, so in our data row we have cells. Okay, so as I have shown you a while ago, so we have the cells. Okay, so what should be our cell? So we're going to have three cells. Okay, first is we have data cell, then for text student that school ID. Okay, so take note, we have this one. So that is our student from students list. So meaning in every student in students list, we are going to return a data row which contains the first cell is we have the ID. Then the next cell is we have the full name. Is it full name? The complete name. Okay. And the last, the balance. Okay, so balance, since it is an integer, so we're going to convert that into a string. Okay, I think that's it. So going back. So what does a map means? Okay, so the meaning of map is we are going to apply this one here, okay, to all items into our students list. So meaning in every student in students list, okay, we are going to return in every student in students list, we're going to return a data row that contains the three items here. So if ever we have three students in or three elements into our students list, meaning it is going to iterate, or it's going to return three data rows which contains the ID, name, and balance of each of those elements. Okay, so that's the meaning of map. Actually, even though in JavaScript, this is also the meaning of map. All of these, whatever commands in between those curly braces will be applied to each element into our list. In our case, we are going to return a data row which contains the three fields of each of the elements. Okay? Okay, so let us try. Uh-oh. Okay, so I have a problem with my emulator, so I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to return once it is going to be reloaded. Okay, our emulator is back. Okay, so we're not going to try. So we have here for the school ID, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we're going to have Donald, Duck, BSIT, and 1000. Then click on save. So as you can see here, we have the ID, Donald Duck, and the balance. Okay, and as usual, we still have here our balance, because what we have changed so far, or the only thing that we have changed into our code is actually here. Okay, so we haven't modified our save record, compute total balance, and the is duplicate functions. Okay, so only the display has been modified. So if ever I'm going to add some more, let us say 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, then Mickey Mouse, BSN 1350, then save it there, another one, and some more. Okay, so how about I want is, again, when we're going to click on each of the items here, so I want it to response. Okay, so what we're going to do here is, actually we're going to modify, we have another parameter here. We could use on long press or on select changed. Okay, so we could have on select changed, and this one here is going, okay, value, then I'm going to use this one. So meaning it is going to return a value. It is a callback function that has a value. So I'm just going to have here is selected. It is because it is going to return, take note here, it is a Boolean variable if that item is selected. Okay, so here we're going to validate if is selected, so meaning if the user clicks on that item, okay, a nullable expression can be used as a condition because this is a nullable. So I'm just going to have exclamation point there. So meaning we are asserting that this is not null. Okay, it is always either only true or false. So if selected, then I'm going to display this one here. So I have created, as you can see, I have still here, I have created the show message box. So here I'm going to have show message box, then we have the context, then the title, we have selected student, and for the content, which is a string, I think this is a string, so I'm just going to pass the name. Okay, so that we could pass the name, so we're going to have a student that complete name. I think that's it. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Donald Duck, BSN 1000. Save. Okay, so we have here now a checkbox so that when I'm going to click on this one, so as you can see, we have the message box. Okay, and to make it scrollable, by the way, so we could have on our date, so we have here, we could actually have also, we could wrap this one into a single child scroll view, so that if ever we are going to have a lot of items, a lot of records here, so then this table is going to be scrolled vertically. Okay, so that's why we have the single child scroll view. Okay, so we have now two ways on how are we going to display our records. It could be through a list view or through our data table. Okay, so that's all for this video, and I'll see you on the next one.